Welcome to the Healthy Compulsive Project podcast, where you can take a deep dive to explore the pitfalls and potential of the obsessive-compulsive personality, offering hope and help for perfectionists, workaholics, micromanagers, type A personality, and control freaks. Hello, everyone. Gary Trosclair here, psychotherapist, Jungian psychoanalyst, and author of the Healthy Compulsive Project book, blog, and podcast. When I first started to recognize the obsessive-compulsive personality in my practice, I was surprised to see that some of the people with this pattern came across as polite and eager to please. These guys had the same aversion to messiness, imperfection, and sloth as other people with OCP, but they didn't fit the image that obsessive-compulsives have of being bossy and controlling. And then I remembered an article that therapist John Bradshaw had written years ago about being nice as just another way of trying to control other people. Something clicked in my understanding of the personality pattern, and I recognized that while these clients had many of the same traits that other obsessive-compulsives did, their strategy for managing them was different. And that strategy of giving other people what they think they want from them often hurts their relationships. So, join me for a discussion of the effects of people-pleasing in episode 58 of the Healthy Compulsive Podcast, People-Pleasing, Resentment, and Other Relationship Killers. Before we jump in, though, I want to clarify something. One listener recently asked if the Healthy Compulsive book was a collection of the podcast, just written out. That had never occurred to me, but I can see why she would have asked. So, no, the content of the book is not the same as the podcast, though it does explore similar themes. It serves as a foundation for understanding and optimizing the compulsive personality. And while you don't have to read it to understand these podcasts, it does offer a more systemic and thorough process for change. But for now, on to today's podcast. While people-pleasing might feel heroic, it can actually hurt your relationship. In a previous post, I wrote about the importance of flexibility and having a good relationship. In this episode, I'm going to argue the opposite, the importance of not being too flexible and not bending yourself around the supposed wishes of others. People-pleasing isn't unusual, but when people with compulsive personality traits launch into it, their drive and perfectionism magnifies the problems it creates. This especially applies to a particular type of compulsive personality, the friend, server, follower type that I described in a previous episode. It might seem contradictory that I'm describing someone who is compulsive as too flexible, since compulsive people are known to be very rigid. But some become rigid about their flexibility. No matter what anyone tells them or how bad it is for them, they're going to march forth with heroic determination to do what they think others want of them. These compulsives use all their drive and meticulousness to become accommodating in order to avoid disappointing others, to avoid making them angry, and to avoid getting in trouble. The danger is that the resentment that results from people-pleasing can be just as powerful as the energy that went into pleasing. While I'm writing this largely for people who have compulsive personality traits, it may also apply to the partners of more bossy compulsives. Even if you don't meet the criteria for OCPD, that is, obsessive-compulsive personality disorder, you may have put drive and determination into trying to please someone with OCPD. That can make for a painful combination if you take too much responsibility for accommodating them. If you want to change these patterns, you'll need to understand your motivations and to really see the results of it clearly. So let's talk about motivations first. First, we'll talk about people-pleasing as a compensation for insecurity. If you feel inadequate, you might try to compensate by using your abundant energy and diligence to give people what you imagine they want from you so that they'll like you and not be disappointed or angry with you. On the surface, this might seem nice and friendly, or even noble and the right or heroic thing to do. And it can be. As with everything else we do, motivations to please others are mixed. Most of us have some genuine desire to help others. But the insecure motivation can take over and infect that genuine desire with an edgy intensity, need rather than desire. Then there's people-pleasing to prove yourself. A related motivation is the anxious need to prove to ourselves and others that we're good by being overly flexible. It's human to want to be liked and respected, but if we betray ourselves to get that respect, it may backfire. Then there's people-pleasing as a control strategy. A need to control situations may also motivate us. We imagine that if we give others what they want, then they'll do what we want. That doesn't sound so bad at first, right? Well, maybe not, but too often the other person never signs on the dotted line and they don't hold up their end of the fantasy, quote, bargain, close quote. Some people just can't be pleased. Some are always disappointed and angry, and some love to punish others, even if they're trying their best. But if you're compulsive, you probably won't let this stop you from trying to please. And resentment ensues. The results of people-pleasing. Here are 6 side effects of people-pleasing, some of which may occur without you being aware of it. 1. You don't get to do what you want to do, and you become very unhappy. 2. You become dependent on the opinions and actions of others. You lose any creative initiative you might otherwise have had to offer and don't allow yourself to pursue individuation. 3. You end up becoming a martyr and you may feel like a victim of what you see as the unrealistic demands of other people. You get the consolation prize of being able to blame others for your unhappiness when you really choose it yourself. 4. You become passive-aggressive to quietly express your resentment about what others should or should not be doing. 5. Once you begin to feel resentment, you'll naturally want to protect yourself by putting up emotional boundaries. Your relationships become flat and stale. And 6. You may leave relationships rather than trying to negotiate within them. While you might be determined consciously to be generous, another part of you may want to go on strike against your conscious intentions with unhealthy behavior. Just for an example, let's talk about Angel meeting Dean and hitting a dead end. Angel was the teacher's pet as far back as she could remember. Never troublesome, she made it a point not to cause her distracted single mother any grief. Not only did she get straight A's, she also helped out whenever she could. Always a go-getter, she was always go-getting for others. When she met Dean, she knew just what to do to make him happy. She could be perfect, look perfect, and do perfect. She liked him and wanted to make him happy. It seemed to work well, at first. Eventually, Angel started to notice that Dean wasn't as generous as she was. Sure, he'd do anything she asked him to do, but it wasn't like he thought a lot about what she wanted. She felt that if he didn't think about what she needed and do it without her having to ask for it, he really didn't care about her. Dean was different from Angel. He said what he wanted, pursued it directly, and imagined that everyone else did the same. Angel had imagined that if she made it a point to give him what he wanted, he would do the same for her. This was her way of proving to both of them what a good person she was and of trying to control things. But neither one was working. She resented his self-centeredness and, without realizing it at first, began to distance herself from him. But this left her feeling lonely and at a loss. She didn't know how to operate without pleasing other people. In fact, when she thought about it, she'd lost track of what she wanted because she had become so attuned to the wishes of others. Redirecting your drive. Giving up the strategy can be really scary. Like jumping into the water when you don't know what's below. It could be really dangerous. But this is known territory. Others have done it, and you can too. Chances are that you're mostly frightened because you've always operated by people-pleasing, and jumping into the water of independence is completely unfamiliar. Yes, you might lose friends, and yes, it might upset your relationship with your partner. But you may want to consider whether friendships and relationships that require you to betray yourself should be saved. If you decide that you do want to change, here are some suggestions. First of all, know your motivations. Be clear with yourself about what motivates you when you overextend yourself. Trying to feel better about yourself? Convincing others you're worth their attention? Making sure things go your way? Then ask, is it worth it? Remind yourself of the consequences of people-pleasing. What's most important to you? Take responsibility. Let other people know that you realize you've been trying too hard to accommodate them. Tell them that you don't want to lose the relationship, but you do feel that you need to stop being so flexible, partially because you're concerned that being too accommodating could actually hurt the relationship in the long run. Clarify what others really want. Check out with them what they really need and want from you. You may have misread them. Do they really want you to acquiesce to everything they want? Just because they say they want something doesn't mean they expect you to make it happen. Set boundaries and say no. Good fences make good neighbors. Make healthy substitutions. When you're trying to let go of a strategy like people-pleasing, it helps to have something else to put in its place. In this case, more self-respect and self-reliance may be your best friend. Pursue your goals directly. Rather than trying to pass your wishes through others and have them come back to you in return, go after what you want directly. Now let's return to Angel and see how she changes her strategy. Angel complained to a friend about her boyfriend, Dean. It was clear that she really liked him, even if she did complain about him. Seeing this, her friend decided to challenge her. What do you think Dean wants from you? Maybe he doesn't expect you to sacrifice what you want for him. He's very different from you. He just says what he wants and he goes after it. Dean can take care of himself. Maybe you should do the same. Angel took a chance and asked Dean what he really wanted. Yeah, he liked it when she did all this stuff for him, but he'd actually rather her be a little more independent. That was what was important to him. Ironically, not working so hard to please him was much more pleasing to him. She tried this strategy with some friends, and not all of them responded so well, but it was worth it to sort out who really wanted the best for her. This is a simplified and shorthand version of what happened, of course, but eventually she developed a stronger psychological core with more connection to her own desires, and that was pleasing to her. You can find transcripts of this podcast with links to research sources and lots more at the Healthy Compulsive blog, www.thehealthycompulsive.com. If you'd like to subscribe to the Healthy Compulsive podcast, hit that subscribe button. And for a thorough guide to cultivating the positive potential of the compulsive personality, find my book on Amazon, The Healthy Compulsive, Healing Obsessive-Compulsive Personality Disorder and Taking the Wheel of the Driven Personality. And if you find any of these helpful, let others know by leaving a review. Till next time, enjoy the drive.